What's cooking, folks? Vermillion Phoenix here, and today I'm here to talk to you more about Orcs Must Die 3. This time we are heading into the Mage Tower. It is the 12th scenario, and also the last somewhat easy war scenario in the game. The main new thing for this level is going to be that we are going to be dealing with Fire Fiends. Fire Fiends in this game are fire immune. They're not just resistant to fire damage. If any fire damage is dealt to them, it will do absolutely zero damage. They will shrug it off. You will see a red icon that will show that they're taking no damage whatsoever. And you will basically just be wasting your coin and your traps triggering. So it's recommended that when you are going through this level, you just probably shouldn't use fire traps at all. You'll see I've taken the fire off of my arrow walls if you've seen some of the previous videos. The Arcane damage is on the Brimstone rather than the default fire, which makes it, in my opinion, almost universally a better trap. The Brimstone, or the Arcane element, provides a damage boost to other elemental damage, and it's in general it's just really good. There's only a couple of enemy types that are even resistant to it. And because of that, I tend to use Arcane Brimstone almost all the time, especially since it pretty much instantly blows up any kobolds or runners that run across it. So it's really nice for that. That said, we have one tool that we would not have access to the first time we would have come here, and that is going to be the Auto Ballista. The Auto Ballista, along with a lot of tar, pretty much makes this one of the simplest maps to actually clear without losing any points. Though there is some user error that can always be had. You want to make sure that you are staying away from ogres, because as always, their charge can sort of knock smaller orcs over your barricades. And occasionally they can show up behind you, which will make it so that you may not see them as they are past some of your defenses. It's probably a better idea to, instead of build some of the things the way that I do later on here, to build a few more traps going forward, and also to extend the pathing that you have for your traps to take up a bit more area on the stairs that you'll see me fighting on shortly. And that'll make sure that basically the ballista have more space to target enemies as they are going further and further up the stairway, and having some extra butterfly windows and also some extra arrow walls will make it so that you have to do less babysitting of the lane yourself. If you're going for combos, of course, you're going to want to sort of be playing with fire and jumping in the middle of the orcs while they are in the traps, and hitting them with either your jar of ghosts if you have it, or whatever weapons you happen to bring with you. I would recommend, if you are going for combos, the jar of ghosts is always a wonderful addition. And you can always do some minor damage with whatever weapons you have. You just want to make sure that if you're going for combos, you don't aim for headshots or anything like that with the Blunderbuss, because it's just too much damage. You actually want to deal as little damage as possible, but deal damage from a large number of sources quickly if you're going for combos. So that's pretty nice. Because of the lack of sappers that are going to be coming into this stage, because they really don't do sappers for war scenarios, mainly because of the huge amount of coin they give you, giving sappers being presented just kind of it's kind of pointless. It's counterproductive to them giving you a large amount of starting coin, and because of that, they just forego it altogether. Like, because it's counter to the design concept. They really just want this to be a lot of orcs and a lot of traps, rather than you having to figure out where you can and can't put traps. So I'm glad that they decided to stick with that decision so far. It could change in the future. They could always sort of remix the spawns and add more enemies at later times. because even with if you have the drastic steps, sort of additional content DLC for the game, they do have some new enemy types. They added the flyers back in, and that means that those levels with flyers are basically done significantly differently than the base levels in the game. They have new entry points and different paths, so you know it's a lot more to think about. But the traps and drastic steps, the new traps, are also super strong. So you know, if you guys wanted to see more crazy orc stuff, I will eventually get to the drastic steps content after I get through the main content for the game. The drastic steps stuff is meant specifically for after the main game, and it's sort of a recap of what happened to Max. The reason why he wasn't available for the main game until after you clear things. So you know, we'll get to that and talk about it at that time. Either way, you can see as you start to get more ceiling ballista, just because of how strong they are when paired with the tar, that it is just a very powerful trap, and it makes this super easy. So I'm not really going to be worried too much about what's coming through during most of this, except for I think one situation where I accidentally have something that gets behind me. I'm not sure if it was due to an orc kind of yeeting them across the barricades, or if it was just me being careless at the time. But at least one of those happened. You could also, if you are doing this and you do not have the auto ballista because you're on War Mage, or this is your first time going through, or you just don't want to use the ballista because you don't like the trap, the gravity pillar is not a bad choice here, especially if you have the damage upgrade to deal damage while it is lifting targets. It won't be able to lift the larger targets, the heavier ones, but it will be able to deal damage to them as they step through the beam. So it's like a small damage over time bonus, and when you have a lot of them, especially since it's a bit cheaper than the ceiling ballista, it'll work super well on the lighter enemies, and it'll deal a little bit of damage to the heavies as they're kind of going through. So it's really not a bad trap whatsoever. It doesn't feel the same as some of the traps that have lower ceiling requirements, like Stealing Pounder, but it is still an excellent trap for these sort of extreme height ceilings. So, you know, feel free to give it a try. I think you may find that it is a bit more useful than it originally looks, since it looks kind of like it would have been just for small units early on. But yeah, it is so nice. Of course, you know, I like the brute force, the more... I like to use brute force to easily clear a lot of the targets here, to make sure that I don't really have to worry about cleanup or physics. And it'll work. It just, this isn't going to get you anywhere near a decent combo count. You can see the best thing that's really coming out of here is a bunch of like 3s and 4s on average. Good workout. So I was kind of looking to make sure that target died. And it looks like we're good there. So you can see the left wall here, kind of behind me. I was kind of just zoning here. I should have extended the traps a bit. Because of the positioning of the ballista, they can actually shoot down this this additional kind of turn, hallway, ramp, elevation, stair combo thing. And this would make it so that you should absolutely just be building some additional wall traps here. It's not super expensive. If you don't want them to sort of hug the side away from the wall, you could just build a couple of barricades at the end there, and they would sort of stay close to the wall. And you could even use different wall traps. If you don't want to bring the arrow walls, you could bring grinders. They'll be a bit more expensive, and you'll be placing fewer of them. But they would still be doing really well against pretty much everything here and offer you a different status effect. They would be able to slow, or you could just have them hit more often, and yeah, it'd be pretty good. So yeah, this is, there's lots of options for what you could actually put here. Some things that probably aren't needed here, if you wanted to think about changing some things or wiggle room for this particular setup, is you don't absolutely need the trap trinket. I mainly bring it because of the volume of auto ballista that I'm going to be bringing here, and out of all of the traps that I have here, everything other than the tar still has some sort of reset time. So the trap trinket is really there just to make sure that those fire a bit more often. It really shines more with things like the pane of butterflies and the butterfly window and the arrow walls. But the auto ballista, just due to the volume of them, actually get a lot stronger because of it too. And also the healing trinket. Normally you do not regenerate any health in this game, but enemies will drop health potions and mana vials. The healing trinket really just gives you passive health regeneration and a little bit more health. If you are not going to be using a melee weapon like the broadsword or the blade staff, then you probably can do without it. I had been playing with melee weapons prior to this, and because of that, I believe I just kind of had it in my loadout and left it there more for security. Now, if you are going through the game and you are being a little reckless, the healing trinket is a great item to have on you, just because you will not have to worry about dying as often. But at the same time, dying currently has no downside in Orcs Must Down 3, other than giving some of the units that killed you a small speed boost. They rift rush and kind of ignore a lot of threats and run straight towards the rift faster than they normally move. And other than that, there's really no big problem with you dying. You don't lose points. I believe it may not get you any bonus skulls. If you do want the bonus skulls, you just don't want to take damage at all. But the healing trinket would really help with that. But, you know, just not having to die and not having to teleport back to the rift will do you a lot better if you are having any sort of trouble. And because of that, that's sort of the situations where I would recommend bringing the healing trinket, you know, just to toughen yourself up a bit. And if you need to be active, especially in the earlier waves when you're likely to take more damage because you have to shore up your lanes or make sure that you're closer to some of the orcs, that's really what you want there. Combo that with some AoE crowd control like the ice amulet you see there, and you could replace the blunderbuss with the blade staff and do a lot of AoE damage, as well as keep yourself healed while taking a lot of hits and aggro from orcs. So other than, you know, this pretty much being a wash now, there's a lot of things that'll come through here, but for the most part we have so many ballista set up that we're going to be destroying everything with relative ease. You don't need quite the amount of ballista that I have here. You could place some other traps in various places to deal a bit more damage. Some arrow walls placed along the sides down in that opening that they're coming through would be pretty useful. The only thing is, because they're coming through two gates, just trapping up that one entrance really is not giving you the most optimal use of your coin. But trapping where I'm standing now would actually be a very good idea. Yeah, this is mostly taken care of. So I guess let's talk about some quick channel stuff. So if you guys aren't aware, I've mostly been streaming over on Twitch, mainly on the weekends. That's when I don't have to deal with the fatigue and everything else from my day job, and that's been going pretty well. I've been enjoying it. I stream with the missus. We recently got engaged, so that's going to be a thing that'll be happening, although I'm not sure about any dates. in addition to that, we are also working on opening up public Discord for this Vermillion Phoenix, both the Twitch, the YouTube, and getting more ideas put together for what we'll be doing then. I plan on trying to get all of the Orcs videos, including Drastic Steps, done throughout the course of this year. And I'm reworking the ideas that I originally had for doing reviews. Like, I don't really want to do reviews traditionally. I don't like the idea of just trying to go through and rate like a game on some sort of, you know, totalitarian idea of how good it is with numbers, because it doesn't make sense. Like, games generally resonate differently with people based on a lot of different factors. There's the orc I missed. I don't even know how I got back there looking at the video. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, we are going to be doing something that I'm probably just going to refer to as indie showcases, where I'll be taking games that I've played, mostly, almost entirely independent titles, things that have been recommended to me by people, not all necessarily new titles, but some that may be new as well, and those are things that you'll be finding in the Discord, just to talk about them, bring them to people's attention. They might even be a variety of genres that you haven't seen on the channel yet. But, you know, I think that for the most part, the games that I'll be looking at are things that are worth people's time. They aren't going to be games that I don't think are interesting, or like, basically, if I don't enjoy the game, I really don't think that I would need to waste anybody else's time even considering looking at it. But if the game does kind of resonate well with me, I think it's well within my purview to make sure that I share it and let you guys know, you know, that there are other good titles out there to take a look at, especially since people ask me about new titles sometimes, and, you know, it'd be nice to share. So this guy is cool. This is sort of this game's version of good old Swifty Hooves from Unchained, Mongrafel, the boss kobold. So he's a little shorter. He's about the size of a heavy orc, but he's got like these cool mohawk spikes and a spiked tail. Does not have a lot of health, and is not immune to any crowd control effects. So you can shotgun this guy with your ice amulet and then just gun him down right where he stands, and that's it for him. This is the only level I believe he shows up in. I'm hoping that, you know, we get like some sort of crazy like boss rush level someday. Maybe like one of the weekly challenges where we just get like a crazy amount of bosses coming through, and then, you know, you have to sort of decide how to take down these boosted strength bosses without them wrecking your traps and just running into your rift and everything else. If I remember correctly, all the bosses are worth more points when they get into the rift as well, so it'd be sort of a really high stakes game, or just level design. But yeah, Mongrafel is cute, but not super scary. Not nearly as scary as Swifty Hooves, since they made you fight him like 5 billion times in Orcs Must Die Unchained. But yeah, you know, I thought it was a cool redesign. And yeah, that's, for the most part, the end of this here.
We won already?
Yeah, there goes the victory. Either way, thank you guys as always for tuning in. I hope that 2021 brings everybody a ton of blessings. And as always, until next video, until next stream, whenever I see you next, I want you guys to take care of yourselves. And as always, have a good one, folks. Peace.